Hey guys, today we're going to do a little bit more practice with 8.6, simply because I don't think it's always straightforward, and we can always use more practice, especially in this online format. What I'm going to go over is question number, I think number 10, because I saw a lot of people have trouble with that one on the homework. And then I'm going to show you a different way to do negatives, okay? Which maybe is easier to you or harder for you. I think it's going to end up being easier for most of us. So pay attention to that for today. Okay. So A is not a negative, so we don't have any problems. So A is 2, B is 5, and C is negative 63. Okay, so I'm going to take this 2 and slide it over to negative 63. That's going to make my capital C negative 126. And I'll just rewrite that. X squared plus 5x minus 126. Okay, so I'm going to need to find factors of 126 that add up to 5. So sometimes it's difficult with big numbers to find factors of 126. So I'll just go with this is how I would do it if I was a student. 1 and 126. Well, that's definitely not it. And remember, this is negative, so negative 1 and 126. So they technically subtract to 5. This definitely does not subtract to 5. All right, 2 and I know what 2 equals, 63. So 2 and 63. Subtract that? No way, that's not even close to 5. 3 goes into that, so 3 and 42. 3 and 42? No, that's not going to subtract to 5. 4? 4 doesn't go to 126. 5? I know 5 doesn't go to 126 because it doesn't end with a 5 or a 0. 6? 3 and 2 goes into it, so 6 also has to go into it. So that's 6 and 21. 6? No, 6 is not going to work though, because when you subtract that, you'll get about 15. We're looking for 5, so that's not the right one. 7 doesn't go into it. 8? 4 doesn't go into it, so 8 cannot go into it. 9 ends up going into it, and that's 9 and 14. Well, wait a second. Negative 9 and 14, that adds up to a positive 5. So just kind of remember, if it's a negative as the C, you're technically subtracting. You are adding a positive and a negative, but if terms of mathematically, they are getting subtracted to each other. So this is x minus 9, and then x plus 14. All right, now before we can finish, we have to redivide the original A, okay? This one on the right is nice, and it simplifies to x over x 14 over 2 becomes x plus 7. So we're done with this guy. He's pretty good. This guy does not simplify at all. So what we're going to do is move the 2 in the front here. So we get 2x minus 9. This fraction does not simplify at all either. 2 does not go into 9 at all. If it could simplify, we would first. So your answer's x minus 7. I'm sorry, x minus 9 and x plus 7, okay? 2x minus 9, x plus 7. So that was number 10 from the homework. What I also want to do is redo a negative one. So let me pick one negative one in the homework. And I'm going to show you what I feel is going to be an easier way. And I'm sorry I didn't show you this the first time, but I feel this will be an easier way now. So let's take number 13, because the numbers are simple at least. Negative 2x, and I'm changing them all to x's. I don't care what variable you use. I think it's h originally, but whatever. Plus 3, okay? So you could add this as a step 0, I guess. And I know you guys don't like it when I say step 0, so maybe you want to say step 0.5. I don't know which one's worse out of the two. But if a is negative, if a is negative, divide negative 1. Why did I write negative 1? I could have just wrote minus 1. So if a is negative, so in this case a is negative 2, and we don't like that actually. So if a is negative, let's not say divide, but let's say factor out negative 1. So what does that mean when I factor out negative 1? Now remember, factoring out means I'm going to take everything and divide a negative 1 out of everything. Okay? So if I divide a negative 1 here, it becomes positive 2x squared. If I divide a negative 1 here, it becomes minus 5x. And if I divide a negative 1 here, it becomes minus 3. Now the only thing is, if you do this, at your end of your answer, so you know it's like x blank, I don't know if it's going to be a plus or minus. The only thing different is that if you took a negative in the beginning, the negative just has to show up in the end. So we're going to put a little negative on the outside here. So if you take a negative out in the beginning, and I think that makes it easier because you don't have to think about simplifying negative 1 or anything like that. You just put the negative out here. Okay? And I'll do one more sample after this, but let's finish it off. All right, let's move over here. Let's point our A, B, and C now. A is 2, B is negative 5, C is negative 3. Capital C is going to be negative 6. So it's x squared minus 5x minus 6. Okay, factors of negative 6 that add up to negative 5. Now, just careful. Remember, this is negative 6. So if you say something like negative 3 and negative 2, yeah, that does add up to 5, but that doesn't multiply to negative 6. That multiplies to positive 6. So the actual numbers you're going to use is negative 6 and positive 1. That still adds up to negative 5. So it's going to be minus 6 and plus 1. Then we're going to divide by our original A, which is 2. And the reason we took the negative out in front, we don't have to think about, oh, has this become positive, negative? You don't have to think about, oh, if what happens when I got a negative 1 on the bottom, or in this case, it would have been a negative 2 here. You don't have to think about that. The negative is already on the outside, and we're happy about it. Okay, so negative 6 divided by 2 is 3. So x minus 3. 1 over 2 cannot simplify, so I'm going to move the 2 to the front. So it's 2x plus 1. Okay. So that's one type with a negative. I'm going to do one more with a negative to hopefully nail in the lesson. Okay, we're going to do another one with a negative. I think I made this one up. Hopefully it doesn't happen on your homework. So negative 5x squared minus 23x plus 10. Pause the video, give yourself time to write it down. All right, so we're going to do that step 0, which is just divide everything by negative 1. That's factoring. Just like how we factor a greatest common factor, I'm going to count the greatest common factor between all this is negative 1. So then that's going to be a positive 1. So this becomes a positive 5x squared. This becomes a plus 23x. And this becomes a plus 10. Okay. So then let's continue. 5x squared plus 23x plus 10. So we're going to say what A, B, C is. A is 5, B is 23, and C is 10. So we're going to bring the 5 over to the 10. So our new capital C is 50. And the x squared plus 23x. Oh my gosh. 10 divided by negative 1 becomes a minus 10. So let's make that negative 10. So then our capital should be negative 50. I apologize if you're already typing your comment saying, Mr. Tolble, you're mistaken. So we got negative 50. Okay, things that multiply to negative 50 that add up to positive 23. Negative 1 and 50, that's 49, so that doesn't help. And I just want you to realize, if you do negative 1 and 50, that's positive 49. The other way just becomes the negative version, so negative 49. So that's why I don't always write them twice out. Like as soon as I see this is going to be 49, I know the other one will be negative 49. So I know that's not 23, so I'm happy. I'm sorry, I'm okay with that. Does 2 go in 50? Yeah, so negative 2 and 25. That's positive 23. Oh, we got our winner right here. So we got x minus 2. And we got x, and close the parentheses. That negative has to be in front. And x plus 25. Plus 25. Now I got to divide by the original a, which is 5. And again, the benefit of taking the negative out first is that we don't have to deal with that negative as a denominator. 2/5 does not simplify at all, so I'm going to move the 2 here, or the 5 here. So it becomes negative 5x minus 2. The 25 and 5, that does simplify to just simply 5. So 5x minus 2 and x plus 5. 25 divided by 5 is 5. So that is your answer. Okay? Now, I'm going to tell you something on how are we going to do this if it equals 0. So we're going to do an example where it does equal 0. And what happens or what changes in that question? The answer will be not much. Okay, so what's changed between our old problems to our this problem? Well, now we equal something, and very particularly we equal 0. Why is that important? Well, I'm going to tell you first, let's ignore the 0 until the very end. Okay, and I guess I'll write it when we get to the end. So we're going to ignore equals 0 until the end. Let's factor this part right here. A is not a negative, so I don't want to bother dividing a negative out. So A is 2, B is negative 3, C is negative 35. Then capital C is going to be 2 times 35, which is negative 70. So that is going to be x squared minus 3x minus 70 equals 0. Again, that 0 is just hanging there. He's not going to do anything all the way to the end, okay? So he's just going to pop up here and there, but he's not doing much in terms of making the math different. So things that multiply to 70, negative 70, that add to negative 3. Oh, I'm just going to make a random guess. Negative 10 and 7. Wait a second, that does add up to negative 3. Wow, I'm really lucky. So I got x minus 10 and x plus 7. But don't forget, you got to divide by the original a, which is 2 and 2. So this one over here reduces down to x minus 5. And this one right here, you got to move the 2 in front. So it becomes 2x plus 7. Okay, that. Now, you would normally, in a normal question, be done. But this is where the equals 0 pops up. So this equals 0. Now this question right here, x minus 5 and 2x plus 7 equaling 0, does that look familiar from any section we've done before? That question right there is the same type of question we did in section 8.4. So if you don't remember, hopefully when we start doing it, you do remember. Well, we have two set of parentheses that equals 0. So what I can do is cut this in half, a little better, hopefully, and set each one equals 0. So x minus 5 equals 0, and 2x plus 7 equals 0. So this one, I'm going to do plus 5 here, plus 5 here. So I just found my first answer, x equaling 5. Minus 7, 2x equals negative 7, divided by 2, divided by 2. X equals negative 7 over 2. We just found our second answer. X equals negative 7 over 2. So when we have it equals 0, oh no, sorry about that. When we have it equals 0, that means what we're going to do is at the end part, so the last part, what normally we would stop, we are going to solve for x by splitting it up and setting each one equal to 0. So what this causes is that we have a little bit of 8.6, a lot of 8.5, and the end part of 8.4 all together in one question. So this right here is would we consider, I guess, the ultimate question, because what this does involves all three sections happening in one problem. Of course, this extends the work of it, so I'll give a little less in this type of question. All right. Your homework's going to be off the same page and probably some from the next page because that's where the equal zeros are. Otherwise, have a wonderful day and good luck.